because speaking of F Notre Dame, I think there is a huge fight brewing behind the scenes in college football, and I think the Big 12 is fighting for survival. This story that we've been talking about, and I know here on the Monty Show, we don't have sources. Trust me, bro. And
clown show.
What have I been telling you for the better part of 6-8 months? They're going to expand the college football playoff to 16 teams. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And it is going to be 4 for the Big 10, 4 for the SEC, 2 for the Big 12, 2 for the ACC, Notre Dame, a G5, and an at-large. It truly is as simple as that. So if you do some math, 4 and 4 is 8, 4 more is 12. 1 in the G5 is 13. 1 in Notre Dame is 14. What's going to happen to those 2 other at-large bids? That is a singular question. And when you look at the fight right now, the SEC and the Big Ten behind the scenes are trying to take those extra spots or at least give themselves the best chance to get there. And one of the things that is so very interesting right now is there is, according to Ross Dellinger at Yahoo, who's the latest to report what we've been telling you for months, there is significant dissent, especially from the Big 12 and the ACC, about expanding past 14, because I think everybody knows that if you go to 16, which I think is almost a given, if you go to 16, the Big 10 and the SEC are likely going to get 5 each. And everybody else is going to be picking up scraps. And the thing that I hope most people understand, if we go to 16 teams in the playoffs and the SEC and the Big 10 get 5 each, there's no way to recover from that if you're the Big 12 and the ACC. The playing field already is slanted in favor of the Big 10 and the SEC. If they get 5 and you get 2, it's over. It's over. If they get 4 and you get 3, and that extra at large in the 16 goes to, you're fine. But that's not how this is going to go. And I think everybody recognizes that Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are going to slant the tables in their favor as much as they can. And Jake, at this point, I can't really blame them.
Yeah, I mean, I just think when you have that much control, why wouldn't you? And you know, people are blaming, you know, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti in their conferences. But the reality is, as I always say, like, they're in the driver's seat for a reason. And I just think that it's one of those deals where at some point, you know, the Big 12 and the ACC have to do something to catch up. And I don't know what that is. I don't know how you catch up, especially when you think about the fact that the SEC has gotten so much better in basketball. So the challenge is, what is the Big 12 supposed to do with this? I mean, obviously you're going to put up a fight. Obviously, I think it was Jim Phillips who on this, who had recently commented that, you know, at some point, you know, it has to be more than just the money. There's got to be some competitive balance of sorts. There has to be, you know, some fairness in college football. So I think people are pissed about this. I think that the sentiment towards the SEC specifically, trying to, what a lot of people call like rig or fix the college football playoff in their favor.
But what would you call it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're rigging or fixing anything. I think they're being transparent. I think that they're saying, hey, like, you know, if we're going to expand it, then we're going to keep our portion in proportion, right? Like, hey, if we're going to add several more spots, if we're going to add 4 more spots, then we want 2 more, and the Big Ten's going to get 2 more, and we'll go from there. Like, that's what I think they're saying is they want to make sure they stay in the driver's seat. So, you know, if that upsets people or you feel like that's rigged or fixed, like, I just disagree. I think what this is these 2 conferences pushing forward, keeping control, basically saying, what are you going to do about it? And there's not much to do about it. And that's why I keep saying the Brett Yormarks of the world or the Jim Phillips of the world have to put their heads together to figure out how they're going to break out of this cycle.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that there is a divide and amongst the power players. So are we calling that the commissioners in college football? And what I've been telling you in talking to sources around television and talking to sources around college football, the big fight right now is over these automatic qualifying spots, but also what does 16 teams do to a schedule? And I told you as late as, I want to say 2 weeks ago when we talked about this, and as early as last July, that Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, and really, I think everybody's in lockstep on we can start the college football playoff before Christmas. The second week of December. If you go back on the channel, that's been here back to before last season started. Now, amongst others, Mandel, Dellinger, pretty much everybody is reporting about when to start this. That one of the discussions is, okay, well, we'll start it earlier if the Big Ten and the SEC only get 4 of us, 4 guaranteed in a 16. Because, again, if you do quick math, that's half the field already would be Big Ten and SEC. Not telling you anything you don't know, but 4 and 4 is 8, and half of 16 is 8. They're getting half the field anyway.
Right.
So giving them 10 of 16 seems untenable to me. It seems untenable. And I wonder if the multiple voices in the room that very heavily and dramatically include television, because to start the college football playoff earlier, obviously you need the TV guys to check the box.
Yes.
Because you have a long-term contract in place. The only way that that contract is going to get changed is if the other side of that contract, which is the TV people, are on board. And trust me when I tell you they are, because I think ESPN and ABC especially would much, much rather have games of leverage versus nobody gives a rat's ass bowl game. I don't think that's even a question. And I've been told by people in TV that ESPN, NBC, CBS, everybody's made it very clear, hey, we're amenable to changing the late season schedule to accommodate an earlier start for the college football playoff because it makes everybody else more money.
Yes.
The question is, how big is the fight over that? Because I think everybody recognizes that what is the worst case scenario? Okay, so the Big Ten gets 4, and let's say they get 5 even, because it would be even worse. Big Ten gets 5, SEC gets 5. You start the college football playoff earlier with 16 teams. 4 of those 16 teams are going to play before Christmas. So right there, that's likely the lower seeded teams, which I would think would not include the Big Ten and the SEC's best teams. So it's an easier step up because you have more of the field, you have more control of seeding and how all that's playing out. No more buffoon manual saying strength of schedule and then ignoring strength of schedule. If you have 16 teams and 10 of them are Big Ten and SEC, you don't want it to start earlier because you're going to be out sooner.
Right.
Is what that comes down to. Because in most years, and with the Big Ten this year, it was a little different because Michigan was so down and the league was just not very good in football. But if you look at the SEC, if you had 5 SEC teams in the playoffs this year, you probably would have had a very dominant late bracket control play by the SEC in this playoff.
We're in a control position.
So if you go to 16 and 4 or 5 of those are SEC teams, it's going to be awfully difficult to keep the SEC and the Big Ten out of the championship game against each other year in and year out.
Yeah, it's the SEC and the Big Ten Invitational.
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly right.
I mean, that's just what it is. And I think that's what's difficult. And, you know, I'm not sure that there is a way back if you're the Big 12 or the ACC. And I think that's why I keep saying, like, you know, the ACC needs to stop fighting itself and start getting in on the fight of how do you catch up to the SEC and the Big Ten. And I just don't know what the path is to do that because it's going to take you winning, you know, the national championship for, you know, probably 3 to 5 years, like maybe win it 3 out of the next 5 or, you know, in dominant fashion to where you could say, yeah, we've been winning the championship. We should have more access. Like, let's go back to the negotiating table. But short of that, I just don't know how else you would do it.
I don't think there's any doubt that the drum that I always beat on this show, and I know it pisses off Big 12 fans more than most. Every team in your conference has to be singularly focused on winning every single game. It's as simple as that because you no longer can afford to have, again, this past year, BYU and Colorado lose late season games that they damn well should have won against Kansas, right? You can't have BYU losing to Kansas and Arizona State. You can't have Utah and Oak State having just absolutely terrible seasons. You can't have that anymore because in my opinion, based on the people that I speak to, every time you have that happen, every time an Oak State and a Utah are just dog, it makes it easier for the Big Ten and the SEC to go to these conversations and say, well, your league's irrelevant. I mean, like Florida State. Come on, Florida State.
What are we talking about?
Florida, really? Did you see Florida State last year? Do you really want to? That's
I'm not doing that.
That's what happens. So when we sit around on this show and you guys get all pissed off that I say, hey, well, West Virginia fired Neil Brown, not after a terrible season, a mediocre season. They fired him because they want better, but Baylor hangs on to baldy 8 ball. Meanwhile, Joey's calling 0 blitzes in Laramie, right? Like we have all these examples, like Oak State's probably the best one. You cut your head coach's salary because you said you couldn't afford NIL any other way.
I'm a man.
Who's going to go play there? Oh, well, Haas Henji, who looked awful in spring ball. This league has got to change its perspective, and it's got to change that perspective now.
Yes.
Everybody has to go all in on winning. And I think one of the best examples of that is K-State. You were able to keep Avery Johnson. You got to win right now. Kansas should be one of the top half teams in this league. Kansas should be fighting for a spot in the college football playoff through the conference championship game. You absolutely should be. We'll see. But I think if I had to guess right now, I think the backsliders are likely to be Arizona State and Iowa State. I think the movers in this league, I think Kansas and Utah have a real chance to win a lot more games than they won last year. It's just going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out, because if this league does not continually get multiple teams into the college football playoff, and the SMUs of the world, who now are having really good portals and really good recruiting classes, continue to bring the bottom of the ACC up, you're not bringing the bottom of the ACC up to compete with the Big Ten and the SEC. You're bringing the bottom of the ACC up to survive financially, to be financially viable. And every time that happens, the Big 12 takes another hit. You can't have BYU in Colorado losing what should amount to must-win games for the conference championship.
Yes.
Because how much better off is this league if Colorado is in the college football playoff last year instead of ASU? You'd have bought a hell of a lot more eyeballs to the set.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that would have been a massive story.
How big would it have been for BYU to be in the college football playoff instead of Arizona State? How many more eyeballs would you have had on the set? A lot. And BYU's better this year than they were last year.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are, and it's the guys in the Big 12 I always point to, I don't want to hear from you in Waco if you start sputtering and you don't win games.
Yeah, next question.
If you lose more than one game this year, don't come in here and bitch at me that I'm saying fire Dave Aranda. Joey McGuire, if Joey McGuire loses a game, start asking questions. If he loses 2, he's not the guy to lead you. Because that's the talent he has on his roster. Right? I can't put it any more simply than to say, you had better be all in. Did you show up to win this game Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday?
We show up.
And did you do everything you could do on Sunday to win the next Saturday game? Because that's what it takes. And it takes what it takes. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
They don't regularly do that in this league, in the Big 12.
Couldn't agree more.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it.
And I think that bleeds into administrations too. That's not just football personnel.
Which is so whack. Why is that? Because you look at Baylor's president trying to put together hey, let's form a super league. And everyone's like, oh, Baylor's all in. No, what Baylor wants is a guaranteed paycheck so they don't have to go all in. Because if a super league happens, Baylor's got as much money as anybody needs.
What happened?
Nobody showed up.
No, they laughed at you, dude.
Yeah,
they
nobody
blew you off.
Nobody outside of the conference showed up. Nobody showed up. And it's just,
Because they don't have to, because they don't respect you, because you haven't earned that respect.
I just am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, Starter? I agree with you. We've talked about this. This is exactly right. I don't want to hear it. When Joey Maguire zero blitzes in one of the stupidest don't you dare zero blitz situations.
Oh, he don't know nothing.
And it costs you a game. I don't want to hear it. When you're giving up 59 points to Abilene, I don't want to hear it. And if Kyle Whittingham has the same year that they had at Utah this year as they had last year, I don't want to hear it. All you need to say is, yeah, it's not good enough. Probably got to make a change. And I don't care if it's Witt, because Witt will tell you if they have the same year this year they had last year, you won't have to make a change. He'll make the change for you. If Mike Gundy can't win a conference game, I don't want to hear it.
Can't win a conference game.
How flippin'
Don't you know
unbelievable.
who I am?
Let that sink in that Oklahoma State, worst team in the Big 12 last year. Not Houston. Not, oh, Deion Sanders can't coach. He's a gimmick. Yet turns out he can, and he's better than Oklahoma State. How does that math?
Yeah.
Well, it maths because Oklahoma State is giving their coach a paycheck and then publicly saying they did it because they couldn't afford NIL. But right here, Texas Tech, you're telling me Texas Tech is more well-heeled than Oak State? Apparently, because he's exactly right. Cody Campbell on that little committee that Nick Saban is going to talk about here in a minute. Number one transfer class. Yeah, they're putting their money where their mouth is in Lubbock, but you're not doing that in Stillwater. You make it make sense for me, Oak State fan, because I can't figure it out. I want to figure it out. Right? How is Oak State outspending Notre Dame? How do we not have? And you can ask Jesus and his dad. Maybe they have the answer. I don't know. They watch practice every day. I don't.
Notre Dame, our mother.
How do we not have a quarterback of note? Michigan, who's going to get bag slapped, has like 37 quarterbacks.
Human or non-human?
Was Will Howard ever going to Notre Dame? No.
Hell
No. We don't have a quarterback. Oh, Steve Angeli he's going to be amazing in somebody else's helmet. Where did he go? Syracuse?
Yes.
Come on, man.
He went to the Kyle McCords.
Come on. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like we need to churn the mentality in the Big 12. And I even think this applies to the Big 10 on some level, right? Like, you learned a lesson after Scumbag went to the LA Chargers to be the head coach.
Right.
Well, you figured out that, maybe we're not
the best conference in college football.
Maybe we need Connor Stallions and his cell phones.
Sign Steeler guy.
Right? Because that was in. Listen, I as much as I am a Notre Dame fan, I have a lot of respect for Lincoln and SC. I don't want to hear it. He's got an unbelievable recruiting class this year. You don't go to the college football playoff. See you later, Link. You're done. You're out. And that, I don't want to hear. Well, Monty.
Well, Monty, he had a bunch of the drama from the LA Boosters, Monty. Come on.
Well, Monty went to the champion. I don't care. Did he go to the college football playoff or not? Because
you are what you are.
The thing I know about USC, and I have dozens of USC fans in my life. Too many, frankly.
Including Buddy in the comment section.
Smelly.
Hyenas.
I don't want to hear about how great Lincoln Riley was as a hire, because he wasn't, unless he goes to the college football playoff. I don't expect it from Imaliava and UCLA. I don't expect that. But you better have a better record than UCLA.
F around and find out.
Injuries don't count. You've got every quarterback and their mother wanting to come to your school. You've got a deep-ass roster. Win games.
Yeah.
If you're in the Big Ten, I don't want to hear it, Dan Lanning. You can't have what happened in the playoff last year happen again.
You mean that part where they got embarrassed and boat raced?
I don't want to hear it, Ohio State fan. It's your job every year to churn players and have the best talent coming and going. You're Ohio State. You make the most money.
Well, you're forgetting about the best team in the Big Ten, right?
Well, Minnesota. Should probably. It's not Minnesota.
That was a joke. It was.
We all know
Minnesota.
it's Penn State.
Yeah, Shower Olympic squad.
We got our running backs here.
And
we've got Drew Aller, who can't complete a pass to you. But I love Penn State fan. Oh, he'd have been the top quarterback in the draft if he'd have gone out. But he's here for the love of
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
He's here for the love of Penn State.
Sure.
Shut up.
Yeah, and Cooper Flagg wasn't going to the NBA.
Oh, he loves it at Penn State.
God, he's going to stay here for years and years and make all the NIL money. Okay.
Drew Aller couldn't beat Notre Dame. And we're supposed to believe. Anyway. John Hamm for $5. This is a win for the Big 12. As 2 guaranteed spots is one more than they would get many years if there were no guaranteed spots for anyone. I don't even disagree with that, but it can't be 5 to the Big 10 and 5 to the SEC and 2 to the ACC and 2 to the Big 12.
Yeah, that's too much.
And then you get an at-large and you get Notre Dame. Granted, if we have a quarterback and we're in the top 12, right? But that's not a win. There's so much money to be lost in that scenario. If you think about that, I'm a believer it's not the money you're making, because everybody's making money. How much money are you not making comparatively? How much money are you not making comparatively? And on a pretty regular basis, I sales train. Right. I talk to people who are sellers and they're like, hey, Monty.
Hey, Monty.
And I always tell people, if you're not motivated by the money somebody else is making, that's a problem. If you are the Big 12 and it doesn't piss you off that the SEC and the Big 10 are 3.5 to you,
A lot.
to your 1, that's a problem. That is a huge problem. Don't look at the money you're making. Look at how much money you're not making. How much are you leaving on the table by only having 2 while they have 4 or 5?
Right.
That's a problem. So, John, I don't disagree with you. I just happen to think it is far more of an issue that they are taking all that money home and you are not.
Yes.
I think that really, honest to God, I think it really damages you. And we'll never know. Like, I think BYU is a very interesting money example in the Big 12. They've got money. They're spending money. But I don't think we'll ever know the full extent. Hired a great athletic director or named a great athletic director yesterday, who, if there's more of a BYU brother, I've never seen him.
What's up, big bro?
But BYU makes money. Like, it's their job, whether it's the church, the Deseret, this or that.
And stuff.
BYU as an organization makes a ton of money, and they don't mind spending it. And their NIL collective is very good examples of that, right? But BYU's winning on the field now. BYU, I think, is going to be one of the best basketball programs in the country next year. How could you not be? You have an elite coach. You have a freaking jerk off for an NIL director, and he just makes a lot of money. And you got a receding hairline that just pumps money into your account all the time so you can buy AJ DeBansa.
We show up.
Right? Like, you have the ingredients.
You got the goods.
I probably should be more specific. But my point is, you have the ingredients to be an amazing basketball program. I think they are also pumping money into the football program. They have an elite coaching staff. They're recruiting. They're portaling. They're recruiting other players illegally behind our backs. What a bunch of jerks. They're doing.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Please shut up. They're doing everything you want your university to do. BYU's got to win. No
Gotta
more.
execute.
I don't want to hear it. If somehow, some way, if it's ever possible, can you imagine BYU not going to the NCAA tournament next year? Holy.
Physiologically, it's a non-starter.
Do you know how many caffeinated beverages would be consumed in Provo if that happens?
When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer.
The point is,
That's a lot, dude.
They're not going to miss the tournament because they've spent money and they've recruited and they've gotten kids. And
Well, and they're already having NBA teams wait for AJ, so
yeah. Oh, fight on. You're exactly right. What SC's doing facilities? Who are you, Oak State James? What SC's doing
what's your new
facilities wise?
ops building looking like?
And I'll tell you, fight on, bro. The money the donors are putting into the SC program, even with, because I'll tell you, they had pitchforks and torches out for Lincoln Riley last year. They were ready to string him up by a yard arm. And they're still putting money into that. It's what I always tell you. I am a Notre Dame fan through and through, like rectum to nose to toes.
If you felt these balls,
I just made that up. But my point is, I even have a clover tattooed on my. Can you guys?
Yeah, it's like an 18-leaf clover and stuff,
Right? Like I am Notre Dame through and through.
Good for you, buddy.
But I have a lot of respect for USC. And if you can't understand the angst that audience has for winning football games, do you understand the money? And they've got bread. Like the film school alone, dude.
Yeah, there's no question they have the money. It's about winning something.
And they're paying Lincoln Riley a freighter full of hundies, and he's not winning.
That was a masterpiece of dog shit.
This is it. This is the fight on. This is it, my guy. If Lincoln doesn't win, I'll pick him up after the game because I'll drive his ass to the airport.
This is the end.
Yeah. Right? Somebody call Adele.
Dude.
This is the end. Doo, doo. What is that from? That's from
007.
Yeah, the Bond film.
Yeah, Buddy's standing on the tarmac and the private jet's like pulling off into the sunset.
Lane Kiffin will be a soft landing spot for Lincoln Riley. Right? What money if you aren't buying top tier QBs with it? I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Tell me about it. Right? Midweek Coug, hello. Even if the Big 12 goes, quote, all in, they will beat each other up and then they will be left out anyway, just like the old pack did. Well, just like the SEC did last year. Right? You can't lose. Who did Bama lost to Kentucky or something stupid? Or no, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky.
Oh, but Monty, the SEC got 5 teams in and all this. Come on. Yeah, well, so what?
I just don't think you can do it. Noel Ramirez, but Monty. You guys are so righteous today. We have to save that NIL money for third and fourth string conditioning coaches.
Right.
Did you guys see the Lakers posted an ad? And it's legitimate.
Do you even
they posted an ad for they posted an ad for a new strength and conditioning coach for the Lakers. Well, and one of the qualifications is you've got to understand how to talk people out of smoking hookah. Right? Like, it's ridiculous to me. Anyway, they posted an ad for that. It's wild. Joey B. Jake already exhausted and yawning. Were you yawning?
Yeah, a little tired today.
Sure.
A little tired today. Sorry, dude.
You're off for like 4 days. How can you already be tired?
I just am I like the only human that gets tired? Like,
yes.
You guys not get tired?
It's flipping 4 o'clock. I have more energy than anybody.
Okay.
Well, I also had amazing.
Yeah, I didn't have my second monster today, so just cut me some slack.
There's one up in the conference room upstairs. Go get it.
Yeah.
I got a white can for you. I had amazing ground turkey and potato tacos for lunch today. My God. Like that is amazing. That Monty Bear's schedule ran at the beginning of the show got to Jake. It makes you sad. Stop the pedo state talk. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
Let's play a little game.
Yeah. Okay. Here. Let me. Okay. Let's come over here. All right.
Perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip.
Yeah, boy.
You love that drop.
Yeah, dude. Come on, man.
BYU football. Jakey Two Holes. If these conferences are so great, they don't need auto bids.
Okay. What else does he have to say?
What pisses me off about it is we are changing the way college football is going to be played with their playing games. Well,
but here's the deal, dude.
Here's the deal.
If you're not first, you're last, and the Big 12 and the ACC are competing not to be last.
Well, and the other unspoken part of this that I think, and this is a fairly, I mean, it's not a great point. It's a good, it's like a 4.5 out of 20.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. It's a pretty good point because what else is going away? Think through this. If you start playing the college football playoff December 15th or that week, what else goes away? Oh, that's right. Conference championship games. What did we learn this past year? You don't need to be in your conference championship game to get into the college football playoff. You don't need to win your conference championship game. Does it guarantee you a spot? Certainly it does. But the tradition, the thing that worries me is the tradition of college football is going away.
Right.
I think we'll always have big rivalry games. We'll always have made-for-TV games. But what I'm telling you is, and I don't know how you, what's the right way to say it? I don't know how you justify. What's more important, a conference championship game, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texarkana Community College?
Abilene.
Thank you. Ohio State, Abilene in week 2, right? Because if you don't play a conference championship game, can you afford to play that cupcake game? One would think.
The problem is we don't have unification throughout the sport.
I would agree with that.
We don't have, and that's a multi-level problem.
But wait, I think, let's be specific about that. I think everybody wants to expand the college football playoff because it means more money. It means more TV money. It means more branding money. It means more games played money. What we don't have unity on is who should get the extra spots. That's what we don't have. And if we want to really get down to it, are we willing to forsake conference championship games so we can start the college football playoff, expand it, and then start it in the second week of December?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's very messy. You know, the thing I don't like about it is it's very clunky, messy, uncomfortable, not smooth.
Why?
Well, because it's it's this whole thing where like in the NFL, like we have the ability to say, okay, there's this amount of teams, and this is what they have to do to get in, right? Like we know watching a week 17 game or whatever, hey, the winner of this game is going to go on to play, this team in this environment, or whatever, right? We have the ability to kind of map that out and do that. And I think, the problem in college football is that there's all this delineation or all this separation in like, strength of schedule and, who's playing who and like how much money. And like, there's all these different factors that go into it, which is why we originally went to a committee versus having computers do it. And now people are unhappy with the committee. And now the SEC and the Big Ten have won a lot more. So now they want a bigger portion of the pot. So it's like now we're in this problem where it's like in the NFL, if you think about it, you've got this dynasty in the Chiefs and like we have this second cut with the Ravens and the Bills and a couple other teams. So it's just the NFL is a lot smaller in size so we can really get our hands around it. Whereas college football is so big that we don't have the ability to organize it.
And when you win, you want more. And when you're given more, I don't know, like Notre Dame bending over and handing their vote to the SEC and the Big Ten so that they get in automatically. You want to see you're able to seize power, you're going to seize more power.
Right.
This is nothing different than the Romans in the savages in their wars. This is nothing different than you gave me a little power. How much more are you willing to give me?
And I think
I'm going to ask for it.
To this point, though, when you're talking about in the comment here, when you're talking about, hey, if they're that great, they shouldn't get auto bids. That's not how. See, for me, that's not how I view it. I understand what you mean, dude, but that's not how it comes across to me. I more see it as, hey, well, why would we penalize the SEC and the Big Ten for, frankly, just winning more?
But wait. What happens when you win more? Well, number one, you built yourself to a quality. Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Oregon. You've built yourself up to this level. So you've achieved something. That's allowed you to do what? Recruit, portal, hire better coaching staffs, hire better technical staff, hire better general managers for now, because all these football programs have general managers.
Right.
So your support staff, higher cut, right?
Right.
But now when it all comes around and you have the opportunity to take more and give yourself more access to the top tier, what happens? Well, you're doubling down on that. Every time you go to the college football playoff and you win a college football playoff game, you get more recruits, because we're going to be on TV more, and we're going to be in ESPN's new app more, and we're going to be in this commercial, and I can make more NIL money because I'm at Ohio State and we won the national championship, or we're at Georgia, I get an SRT. Hopefully I don't drink and drive, but that's a different story.
Well, we're not talking about Oklahoma State, so, you know.
Right? Like, honest to God, when you win more, it gets easier to take all of the gold. And if you are in college football, the gold is talent, both in the football playing department, in the coaching department, in the support department, and you get better NIL collective guys. Your collectives get more money, so they pay more money.
I mean, we know that.
It just snowballs.
Yeah.
And what happens is you got to the top of the mountain, and visualize a hill like a mountain. The SEC and the Big Ten have pushed their snowball to the top of the mountain. And now the problem is, now that Ohio State won, and now that they're going to expand the college football playoff, now all of college football, including the Big 12 and the ACC, have pushed the SEC and the Big Ten snowball down the other side of the mountain, and it's just picking up more and more snow, right? And it's picking up more and more money and more talent. And the Big 12 and the ACC haven't got their ball to the top of the mountain. They were too busy helping push the other guys up and over. And now they have nobody left to help them get to the top of the mountain, because everybody who would help them is already running with the Big Ten and the SEC, the TV people, the NIL money, the NIL, collectives, the sponsors,
all the Sherpas are already Sherping with the Big Ten and the SEC.
And so what's happening is you're getting left standing still. You're not backsliding from where you are. You're just not moving forward. And it's great that AJ DeBanza picked BYU. What does that do for the football program?
Yeah.
It's great that the women's basketball program at Utah is elite. What's that do for the football program? Because it's supposed to be the other way around. Why do you think SEC basketball is so much better right now? Because football's dominant. Why do you, if you go through time, you can correlate. And I want to say that this is on 3, where I read this. If you go through time and you look at, you look at how good football has been historically, there's a basketball bounce in that conference. And now I think that's amplified even more.
Yeah, and I just think it's so necessary for your basketball program to be good. Like, you have to have it.
And when your football program's good, you could rehabilitate a bad basketball program. Utah's football program is not good right now. They're not winning games. They had a terrible year last year. But what happened when Utah's football program went to the Rose Bowl multiple years? They were recruiting in women's ball, not in men's ball. But there was a bounce. So now you're looking at Oak State. How long is Oklahoma State going to be living on their softball program's decent? Your basketball program's okay. Look at BYU. Football's amazing, as good as it's been in probably a decade plus. And now basketball this year is probably going to have a historically good season.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's not rocket science, boys. So I think this is a really important discussion. And it's one we need to have. And we need to have it on a regular basis, because if it goes to 16 and 5 each go to the Big Ten and the SEC, it's over. That's when you fold up your tent and you're like, yeah, we can't compete.
I do wonder, before we move on, I do wonder what is like the limit for how far the Big Ten and the SEC can take it, right? I mean, like, is there a scenario? I mean, again, I as we've discussed on this show ad nauseum, I'm a huge believer. We're huge believers. The Super League is coming, and that's in development, and that's going to show up here in the next several years. But
Donald Trump has talked about a Super League.
Yeah, I just wonder, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, doesn't it have to be part of this equation that it's like, hey, we're running out of time before the Super League gets here to be in this control position? Because that's what this is. This is them being in control. No, like basically predetermining the outcome, because Greg Sankey doesn't give a damn about which one of his schools happens to be the national champion.
I would agree with that.
That's not the point. The point is, hey, our school needs to be the national champion. We need 4 schools as part of that process. We like that's the conversation. So I'm just curious if we ever see, if it gets to 5-5 or like what ends up. I highly doubt it'll be 5-5 in this, round.
I would agree with that.
I think it's gonna be 4-4 in that format, but I'm curious how far they will be able to take it before, they're forced to adopt the Super League model.
Hour number 2 of the Monty Show brought to you by Rula.com. Get to Rula.com/Monty. You guys take your mental health seriously. And in the vein of, I was mentioning coaching and talking to people, I was talking to a guy today that's a professional salesperson who's lost his belief, and he's lost his belief in his ability, and he doesn't know how to recover that. And so I was talking to him about Rula, because he was saying, I'm having trouble controlling my confidence and my emotion because work feels like it's really heavy. I'm not making the money I want to make. How many of you are in that same position where you said to yourself, man, I'm just not good at this. I can't do this. Or you're battling imposter syndrome. When you're struggling professionally, get help. And the best part about Rula.com, when you go to Rula.com/Monty, they're going to tell you it's $15 for most of their clients. If you have health insurance, in 9 out of 10 cases, it's $15 to talk to a therapist, and they can schedule a video session with a qualified therapist for tomorrow. You don't have to wait weeks. You know how many times you've waited weeks to just get an appointment with a doctor?
You just gotta try to get penciled in.
You don't do that at Rula.com/Monty, because they'll hook you up with a therapist tomorrow. It's that easy. Mental health and mental health issues in your life need to be addressed now. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. It's no longer about that. It's about getting the help you need so you can be the best version of yourself for your wife, for your kids, for your mom, your dad, your brothers, your friends, your coworkers, for yourself. Because the most important relationship in your life is the relationship you have with yourself. Start building that. Get back to the best version of yourself at Rula.com/Monty, where they have mental health programs tailored for you. And in most cases, it's just $15. Rula.com/Monty. All right, if you're just tuning in, talking about where the future of college football lies, and I think it is without a question that we are going to go to, I think it's 16. I've talked to a lot of TV dudes who have said 16 really helps us with our revenue generating in December, late fourth quarter. Because one of the things that I think people don't think about is, what is the impact on television of expanding to 16 or going to a Super League? Television works in quarters. Hey, how are we going to end the year in our fourth quarter? Like, how are you going to finish the year strong?
Yeah.
Well, if you're ESPN and ABC and you can get 2 more college football games in a playoff format, you're going to do that every single day, because it helps you sell more money, more sponsorship, more dollars. If you are a college football team, and again, I'll go with Notre Dame, if we can get another game at the stadium where they sell more beer and more sweatshirts and more golden domes. And
hey, do Notre Dame hoodies have holes in them the way Navy ones do?
They don't.
Or...
Bill Belichick has cornered the market on that. My point is, it makes more sense because those early round games are played on site.
Yeah.
They're at home. So Ohio State, for instance, hosting Tennessee last year, Notre Dame beating the hell out of Indiana last year. Like, you look at those games, that's new, fresh money for both the TV partners, Notre Dame. Like, you're making more money because you're winning playoff games. It makes a lot of sense. And the business model of 16 makes a lot more sense than 14.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Hero 75 for $10. My bet is that the conference championship games will become playing games for the tournament. Example, the fifth place teams in the Big Ten play for that auto spot in the tournament? Well, and there is quite a bit of, one of the biggest questions that I've heard around this is, are you diluting the quality of the college football playoff if the top 5 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC get in? I think on the Big Ten side of the ledger, you would be.
Yeah.
Right? Because
it's hard to deny that.
If you look at the Big Ten and you start saying, okay, well, let's look at, if it was 16 and we were getting 5 teams in, the top 5 teams were Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Ohio State. I think those 4 were pretty strong. Penn State, you still don't have a quarterback, but okay, those 4 are pretty strong. The 5th team would have been Illinois. Would anybody have been excited about a 10-3 Illinois team who didn't score much on offense? The drop off after those top 4 is it's significant.
Yeah.
Right? If you go to the SEC and you say to yourself, okay, well, let's see Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. Those are power football teams. Those are teams that both score points and play great defense. The number 5 team would have been LSU. That's a pretty good 5. That's a pretty good 5. And you start looking at what was closely after that: South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss was the best defense in the country last year and had over 500 points of offense. I think I could make an argument that LSU, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss belong there. To a lesser extent, Missouri, because I think their defense wasn't as strong as the other guys. Their offense wasn't as strong. But from Ole Miss down, okay, there's a fall off there. Ole Miss up, there's not a whole lot of separation between those teams. And I think Texas was significantly better than most of the teams in that league, especially offensively.
Yeah.
But you could make a case that there's legitimately, what is that, 8 teams? That's not a very big fall off. If we go to the Big 12, what about the Big 12? Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, and Baylor are the top 5 teams. That's dog, dude. That could Arizona State, would you feel comfortable putting any of the top 5 teams in the Big 12 up against any of the 3 best teams in either league?
I think that the Big 12 teams could hold their own against like Oregon and,
You think they could hold their own against Oregon?
Oh yeah, I think they could hold their own against Oregon. I think definitely Indiana for sure. Penn State, very suspect, no offense. That's
they were big defensively.
Big defensively, but again, we're not talking about whether you're winning the game, right?
You're not none of those 5 teams are beating Ohio State.
No.
Sorry, that's not happening.
No.
And then if I look at the SEC, and maybe this is where we pound each other's face masks today, none of the top 5 teams in the Big 12 can compete with Texas. Not
Agreed.
one of them. Not
Agreed.
a single one.
Agreed.
Texas last year was over.
I would say that about Georgia too.
Over and above.
Yeah.
Georgia, after the Carson Beck injury, there were some story. Georgia couldn't score late in the playoff, right? Like we saw that in the playoff. They couldn't score. Alabama would have beaten the top 5 teams in the Big 12. Is that the
conversation we're having? Because I think this is important. Are we talking about whether the Big 12 can beat these teams?
No, does the Big 12 deserve more than 2 spots? And the answer is I don't know. If we're trying to level a playing field,
if that's the answer, then the answer is no.
If we're trying to level a playing field,
yeah.
Okay, they deserve more than 2 spots. If we're doing it on merits, they don't.
Yeah.
The ACC does not. The Big Ten.
And I think the ACC's case is far worse.
The Big Ten doesn't deserve 5 spots if we're doing it on merit. They just don't. So it's one of those conversations where there's not a right or wrong answer. We're just all, throwing opinions around. Wasikowskinator, a 5th place Big Ten team can destroy a Big 12 first place team. I
disagree with that, dude. I just don't think that's accurate.
I look at in the Big Ten last year, how different is Oregon if they don't deal with that bye week? Because remember, the bye week teams were winless. If Oregon doesn't go on that bye week, are they a different team? We'll never know. I would like to think so.
I can also look at Oregon's schedule and say, hey, like, they're on the light side there.
They were on the light side. Indiana sucks. I'm telling you right now, this sucks is strong. Indiana was not a good team last year. They did not belong, and I said it all year, and you guys tried to rail me, but...
Well, I win. Google me.
Yeah, that's great, Coach, until you run up the... And I'll remind you again. Because
Sorry, guys, I should have encouraged him.
I feel like everybody wants to be a revisionist when it comes to Big Ten history. Name me the quality win. This is Indiana's schedule last year. Oh, the one-loss team we belong in. Shut up. Florida International, Western Illinois at UCLA. Charlotte, Maryland at Northwestern. Nebraska, Washington at Michigan State. Michigan. Oh, then you ran into Ohio State and got your ass beat.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
You got your ass beat. But then you bounce back against Purdue, which, that was a crappy win too. By the way, then you ran into Notre Dame at the stadium. How did that go? One of your big rivals in state, Notre Dame, they beat the hell out of you.
Notre Dame, our mother.
You couldn't operate.
Yeah.
Indiana was a very average-ass team last year. And I look at Ohio State. Ohio State, that loss to Oregon, there's no excusing that. There's no excusing that.
Right.
You know what else you can't excuse? That you dominated Tennessee, Oregon, and for long stretches, Texas. And then you played a closer game, but you pretty well handled Notre Dame.
Yeah. That game wasn't really in doubt.
I don't believe Ohio State at any point in the playoff was ever in danger of losing. I don't believe that the two games they lost, I don't know how you explain Michigan, because Michigan was a dog shit team last year.
Mm-hmm.
They were not good somehow. It's been 9,421 milliseconds since Ohio State beat Michigan.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Or you mean beat Connor Stallion. Anyway. And then losing that game, Will Howard's mental meltdown at Oregon. Ohio State, I think, was the best team in the country last year.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is what it is. Illinois ain't beating Arizona State. Probably not.
No.
Not a chance. Wishful thinking, Big Ten syndicate homer.
Yeah.
The Big Ten fan really does like themselves a lot.
Yes, they do.
Well, listen, Monty, I got to tell you about Purdue.
Well, Monty.
You're a homer. Is the first part.
Monty, you know they have trains at Purdue, right? And when I look at them, man, those engineers, I don't care if they make great
Monty in the
engineers.
ops building too, man.
The stadium guy, James, no Big 12 team can compete with Texas. Arizona State did just that. Texas is twice as good as Arizona State. I mean, you play the game because you live for moments. And I agree. Was that game really tight? Yeah. If that Arizona State and that Texas team played 10 times, how many games does Arizona State win?
1. I think they win 1.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. And I just think that the thing that people tend to forget about that game is when Texas needed it, how easy did it look?
Very.
How easy did it? It looked really easy. Well, and then you ran into a team like Ohio State, and it didn't look that easy, did it, Quinn? It didn't. That's just me. I don't know. BYU football. Yeah, but Monty. Hey, Monty. With it becoming a conference play-in model, the non-conference games lose their value. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses and eliminates the top 25. I'm telling you, I would never play a big out-of-conference game.
Do you see what I mean? Like, there's all these, just all this, this just nonsense we have to deal with in college football. Top 25s and non-con schedule and con schedule.
But why are we going to keep the big non-conference games that we see in late August, early September? There's one single reason. I've talked about it forever on this show. Why are we going to keep those big non-conference games? Because TV wants it and needs it. And TV's willing to pay for it. You remember, go back to Pete Carroll at SC. It's the game that I always talk about. USC at Auburn. USC won that game. Ohio State at USC is one of the best college football games I've ever seen. With the Clay Matthews defense. And there's a reason that the non-conference big matchups, the kickoff classic, those games will always be there because TV needs it for ratings.
Yeah, did we
money.
Did we just forget about LSU, USC, and Vegas?
Those big non-conference games early in the year are going nowhere. Now, I think you're going to see a lot more Mercer, Alabama in November, because what incentive do you have to play a big non-con game? And this is the Notre Dame ACC scheduling agreement thing, right? Those are Notre Dame. Whether you want him to be or not, that's a significant opponent. And you look at Notre Dame playing Miami. Catholics versus convicts. I'm here for it. Give me another T-shirt. Right? I'm here for that.
Yes.
And
I think everyone's here for that, by the way.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. A TV guy that I know is watching the show and saying not only does the TV people need the money, the schools need the money, which is exactly right. The kids want to play those games. That's a great point. The kids want to play those big games.
Yeah.
So I don't think those games ever go away. I really don't think they ever go away. Well, Matt Barkley leading SC down the field at the shoe. Dude, that's the thing about USC. They always are in these. You have so many memories of big, and the Vince Youngs of the world that. You look at the history of college football, SC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas. We like blue bloods.
Abilene.
We like blue bloods. Think about it. How difficult is it for somebody, and maybe in the Big Ten, like Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, just in football, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, like, you think about the secondary brands in these power conferences, Northwestern, Vanderbilt. Will they ever be considered a blue blood in football? Vanderbilt's a baseball school, dude. That's a women's basketball school, right? Like, it's so hard to break out of your ecosystem as a bottom feeder. You are there.
Are we talking about the Big 12 or other teams?
You are there. And the Big 12 is a good part of this. And I'm not even trying to be a red ass about it. But if you think about the history of college football, how many historically crappy programs have gone on and rise to power? Almost none. How many times has USC been terrible and then come back and done a Pete Carroll and then come back and it happens all the time to a power program. How bad was Ohio State? How bad was Michigan under Jim Harbaugh until Connor Stallions got there? How many times have we at Notre Dame been left for dead, prayed to Jesus and his dad, and all of a sudden, somehow, some way, we have an automatic bid to the college football playoff?
Because shit's going good.
Amen. You know, like, you as a blue blood, you can suck for 5 years, come back and be a blue blood again. As an also-ran that never was, you're never going to be. That's the harsh reality of college football, right? Midweek Coug, how about SEC and ACC play 9 conference games? Why would you? Why would you?
Yeah, what's the point?
Or other conferences play 8 conference games. Why would you want to do that?
See, this is the problem. You can't say to the SEC and the Big Ten, hey, you guys sacrifice.
Hey, you're gonna. No, we're not.
Oh, you guys have done all the winning. That means you should set. No, they shouldn't. No.
Because if you say to Greg Sankey, you guys are playing 9 conference games, what's he going to say to you? Hey, watch your mouth, boy. That's what he's going to say to you. He's going to backhand you like my mom did at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Right? You watch your tone, boy. Because the Big Ten, and I really think, to a lesser extent, the Big Ten, the SEC and Greg Sankey, and I'll play you the clips you don't want to hear, right? Like I'll play you the clips that piss people off, because I think it is so incredibly important that we all understand the way that college football works, right? Like if you look at guys like Urban Meyer, right? If you look at the guys that you listen to and you trust, and you're like, hey, I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The truth of the matter is that Greg Sankey all those months ago on the Triple Option podcast when he said they want to be us, he wasn't wrong.
I don't want to dumb down the Southeastern Conference to be part of some Super League notion with 70 teams that some people speculate would happen. They want to be us, and that's on them to figure it out, not on me to bring myself back to earth.
And then you listen to Brett Yormark talk about expansion, and you're like, okay.
Expansion isn't something that's on my radar right now for obvious reasons. But listen, this is an evolving landscape, collegiate athletics, and we always have to be ready. So I can't sit here and say we'll be 16 for the next 10 years. It'll all depend on the nuances in and around the Big 12.
How can you say expansion's not on your radar? Because he's got all this other stuff to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And then Greg Sankey's telling people, they got to come up to our level. We're not going to lower ourselves to those comments.
And they shouldn't.
Like, I'm going to fly coach.
What an idiot.
Idiot. And that's why when you listen to guys, like listen to Urban Meyer.
So this is the 4-4-2-2-1-1. 4 teams from the SEC, 4 teams from the Big 10, 2 from the Big 12, 2 from the ACC, and then 1 independent, 1 from the lower conferences.
It's going to happen. Dude, I'm telling you.
Independent being Notre Dame, just so we're all on the same page.
You just have to understand that it's not what you want, and it's really not what I want. I would much rather just say, let's stay at 12, go to a Super League, have a nice day.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know that there are 80 teams that will opt into a Super League.
And I don't know that you want 80 teams.
Right?
You know,
I would agree.
I think, at most you want 60, 70, at most.
I think you would ideally love far less than that.
Yeah.
I think you would love 30 to 40.
Because
you can manage that.
Then you're in the NFL territory, right? Because the NFL's got 32 teams. You've got probably, hell, in any given year, obviously it gets dwindled down as we get to the end of the year, but probably 15 teams that are really in the playoff conversation most years.
I'm telling you. And then there's this thing with the presidential commission. This is fascinating to me. There was all this news that President Trump was going to form a commission to explore saving college sports.
So I said, yeah.
Nick Saban for the cabbage enema, right? Like he was coming in hot and he was going to core that thing out.
Nick Saban is a better man than you are.
And he is going to save college football.
Kiss my butt.
Coach, you're ready to save college football.
Well, first of all, I don't know a lot about the commission, first of all. Secondly, I'm not sure we really need a commission. I think that, a lot of people know exactly what the issues are in college football and exactly what we need to do to fix them. I think the key to the drill is getting people together so that we can move it forward.
I'm old. I don't hear so good. Did you just say you don't know much about that commission, boy?
The answer is yes.
What? Coach, you're saving college football. Slow down,
First
kid.
of all, slow your damn roll.
I don't know anything about what commission you're talking about, sir. How is it possible that his answer is, well, but you are going to save college football, right?
I really don't want to get into the implementation of what I would do. I think, the first thing is everybody's got a different state law, which creates advantages and disadvantages, and everybody's trying to create advantages. So you probably need an interstate commerce type something that gets it all there. I don't think it's in the best interest of the players to necessarily be employees. And I think authentic name, image, and likeness is good for players, but I don't think pay for play is necessarily what we want.
And he went on to say, at the end of all of this, and this is why this fucking guy's amazing. He goes on at the end of this to be like, yeah, and I don't know that football needs saving. What? You're the chairman of the committee, sir. And you're over here talking about this vantage and that vantage, and everybody's got vantage.
How dare you?
this cat is supposed to be the chairman of the commission to save college athletics. And he's like, yeah, I don't know anything about a commission. I really don't think college athletics.
I don't know.
They don't need
I don't know if
no advantages or saving.
But hey, if you want to pay them for a T-shirt, that's great. You know,
He told Paul Feinbaum today. I was just talking to President Trump, and he's like, yeah, a lot of my friends are not happy about this. What can we do?
That's why we have Feinbaum.
And apparently they formed a commission and put Nick Saban at the head of it. And Saban's like, whatever you say, Chief. Like, it is the craziest thing ever. And I look at this notion that, college football needs saving. No, it doesn't. You know what it needs? It needs to get this House settlement done. File the stupid thing, and let's go on about our business of running college athletics, and then form a super league, because you can create a new entity that's going to insulate the people involved in that entity from continuing lawsuits.
right?
Because you're going to get government intervention to give that new entity antitrust exemptions. And let's go play big football games. But what we can't keep doing is going to court about everything. You can't keep doing that. You can't keep talking about, 5 teams here and 2 teams there and screw boys.
Just take it nice and easy, okay? Just relax.
Right? You can't keep doing that because it pushes fans out. It makes people unhappy.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't know what you guys think, but I think generally we're all worn out on talking about problems with college football.